Hello everyone, welcome to the channel and to another Energon universe discussion video. Transformers number 9 from Skybound recently dropped, and it is a bit of a roller coaster. As is shaping up to be the case with most issues in this series, Transformers number 9 is jam-packed with action, emotion, and character moments galore. Just when it seemed like the Autobots were finally rounding a corner after being on the back foot for the first 6 issues, things take a turn for the worse in this chapter. It's bad for the Autobots, but as a reader, it's quite enjoyable. I'm really starting to dig this constant escalation between the two factions. Neither side can ever really get too settled into a status quo before something new comes along to disrupt everything. The stakes feel very high, and the Autobots consistently feel like the underdogs, something that I think is true to how the conflict was depicted in the first season of the G1 cartoon and the animated movie. So that means it's a good thing that the B-plot with Wheeljack, RC, and Carly seems to be leading to reinforcements, because the Autobots are going to need them, as the Decepticons bolstered their ranks considerably with the addition of Astrotrain last issue, and by the end of this issue find themselves with even more firepower with Shockwave and 1.5 Combaticons on their roster. Sorry, bro. We'll get to Shockwave in a moment, but I have to say how great it is to fully see the Combaticons in the Energon universe, even if briefly, as they're one of my favorite combiner teams, and they look great in Corona's style, and Spicer absolutely nailed the color palettes for them, right down to the distinctive orange visors for Onslaught and Brawl. But the real question, which sadly goes unanswered here, is which deco will they go with for Blastoff's face? Will they replicate the strange eye placement from the cartoon, where his forehead was mistakenly turned into his visor, or will they give him proper eyes? These are clearly the most important questions. Aside from showing us these fan-favorite characters, this scene with the Combaticons also gives us this wonderful line by Alita 1 where she says, "Someday we can die in oil and glory," which I got a real kick out of. It's the kind of thing that feels like the logical evolution of the puns and turns of phrase from the G1 and Beast Wars eras. It fits in so well that it almost feels like it's been part of the franchise forever, despite being brand new. Love it. This segment also gives us an answer to the time frame for the Cybertron story with Alita 1, showing that it is, in fact, present-day Cybertron, as Alita 1 and Magnus stumble through the space bridge portal to Earth with impeccable timing, thus bringing the two characters into the primary cast on Earth, which is an exciting prospect. Looking forward to them both joining the main cast. But the big event of this issue is undoubtedly Shockwave's arrival on Earth, and this feels like a huge deal in terms of what it means for the story moving forward, as there's all kinds of ominous hints that Shockwave will be the Decepticon to really take everything up a notch beyond the somewhat petty ambitions of Starscream. Before this issue, I felt like the Decepticons were a genuine threat to humanity for sure, but that threat felt more localized or focused, like they were a danger to towns or cities or whatever. Whereas now, it feels like all life on Earth may hang in the balance, so it seems to me like the stakes have been raised tremendously. As for Shockwave himself, he feels like a different take than the sort of expected version, where he's colder and either much less emotional or completely emotionless. He feels a bit more maniacal here, maybe a little bit zany or even goofy. It's just a little bit, a line here or there, but at times he sort of reminds me of the Dr. Smooth parody in Shockwave's Burden. Like I said, it's just a few moments because he's not a joke here like he was in the parody video, but this version of Shockwave seems more prone to outbursts of emotion and ego than I'm accustomed to seeing. It's not a criticism. Honestly, I'm on board with it. It's just a difference that's worth noting. I think out of all the Decepticons we've seen so far, Shockwave feels the most like an unabashed arch-villain, the kind we'd expect to see in the G1 cartoon. But maybe he was just in a celebratory mood at being reunited with the lost Decepticons and having a possible way to revive Cybertron. I don't know. After all, the last time we saw him in Void Rivals, he was a pretty grumpy Gus. Here he's chuckling maniacally about besting Optimus Prime and delivers a groan-inducing line about being tickled purple. So yeah, he seems a bit on the zany side, but he also comes across as a credible threat, so I don't want to downplay that aspect either. And this is obviously just one appearance, but he's really giving off mad scientist vibes, with an emphasis on mad. He seems a little bonkers, to be honest, to the point where I wonder if he's always been like this or if he's gotten worse since the arc's been away. I wonder that because Thundercracker seems to be a little taken aback by Shockwave's intentions for experimenting on Cliffjumper and Jazz. More foreshadowing for Thundercracker's disillusionment and frustration with the Decepticon cause, perhaps? As an aside, I love the setting of this main conflict in the Pacific Ocean, where the factions are duking it out in the eye of the storm or whatever this is, with a great-looking mixture of seabed and fauna and Decepticon machinery. Corona continues to do an excellent job on the art here, and this is just a cool bit. We've seen the Autobots and Decepticons fight in the ocean before, but never quite like this, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, another interesting change for Shockwave here is that he changes mass when he transforms to alt mode, much like Megatron did in the G1 cartoon, so he can be held and fired by Transformers. This is officially called mass conversion in the letters column at the back of the book, and the process is explained in surprising detail, making for a fascinating little tidbit that lays out the rules Skybound is playing by when we see characters who change size when they transform. While Shockwave is given this ability in this universe, Jetfire seems to have had it removed, as his jet mode was absolutely gigantic in the cartoon, able to comfortably and ridiculously transport multiple Autobots, while here he's just large enough for Cliffjumper to pilot him. While Shockwave's arrival may be the marquee event, and it was very cool in its own right, I was honestly more impressed by the official entrance of Beachcomber. His appearance wasn't necessarily an out-of-nowhere surprise, as the character was foreshadowed in issue 8 in the foreground and draped in shadow, no less. Foreshadowed? Too on the nose. But what was most surprising and exciting was the setup here. Beachcomber taking down Astrotrain with an EMP grenade or whatever it was and coming to Spike's rescue is maybe the most badass thing the character has ever done, at least that I can remember anyway. And his appearance raises a number of questions. Was he sucked out of the Ark before it crashed, or did he arrive on Earth independently of the other Autobots? Trying to escape the war, perhaps? I'm eager to find out what the story is there, and I'm hoping that, even though this moment is really cool, that it's just the first of many this character gets in this book. Still, if this title has taught me anything, it's that you never want to get too attached to anybody in this book, and I wouldn't normally rate Beachcomber's chances against Astrotrain, so I'm not sure how long we'll be following the little guy before he dies a horrible death, but who knows? Maybe he's resourceful enough to overcome. Regardless, this is a matchup I'm really looking forward to, and here's hoping that he gets a bit of an interesting story before being written out, if that is indeed his fate. Speaking of characters dying, I'm revamping the body count slightly to show the number of visible deaths, as well as an implied toll to count deaths that are unfolding in real time but not fully depicted on panel. I'm going with an implied total of 5,000, give or take, for those aboard the USS Henry Harrison, which really puts the brutality of the Decepticons into perspective, doesn't it? Whew. I suspect it may only get worse from here on out with Shockwave in play. As for new additions to the body count, there's really only one that I think it's safe to add, and that is, sadly, Ratchet. I did not see that one coming, to be honest, probably because Johnson misdirected us to expect something was going to happen to Cliffjumper in a letters column, really primed us for this moment. I'm not sure if Jetfire is gone again already or not, so there are question marks next to his name, but I'm not counting him just yet. I also have questions about Vortex, but he could be alive, seeing as how the Combaticons were just about to combine before being cut off from Cybertron, but I suppose they could have combined without their left arm, right? We'll hopefully find out one way or the other soon. The other possibility is Brawl, but I think he's still alive. As always, I'll make changes when we know more, if necessary, so yeah, just the one death this time around. I have some other notes of interest that I want to quickly touch on, starting with Spike. Whew, he's having a really rough go of it, isn't he? Johnson is really putting that character through hell. But I quite like the little moment where Spike willingly surrenders to Astrotrain to save everyone else. Not only demonstrates his heroism, but it also reinforces the idea that Johnson's been toying with, that some Decepticons like Astrotrain, Thundercracker, and Megatron seem to be not as sadistic and cruel towards species that they seem to be beneath them. They pity them in varying degrees, or are even willing to show them mercy. So that's kind of cool. It makes it feel like the Decepticons are united under this survival of the fittest ideology, but even underneath that umbrella, they're still distinct individuals with differing views on how that should play out. Also, it seems like Spike specifically fits into Soundwave or Shockwave's plan, right? I mean, if they just wanted any human, they had their pick, both on the carrier and at the hospital. So what's the deal here? Another effective moment was the Autobots' retreat, specifically Cliffjumper and Jazz being left behind. Not gonna lie, Cliffjumper reaching towards Optimus as he drives away, that was a bit of a heart-rending moment, but I think it was supposed to be. I think the decision was justified based on what was going on in the scene, but I do wonder how this bit landed for people reading it, because it is essentially Optimus Prime leaving his warriors behind. For me, I think as admirable as Optimus Prime is, he doesn't have to be perfect. I think he can and should make mistakes or bad calls. As with the deer in issue number 2, it's not so much the mistake itself that defines the character, but how he reacts and responds to it or to his own actions. That's what makes him feel like Optimus Prime, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing moving forward. So I wonder if this part didn't sit well with readers, or if they're like me, where the creative team has earned enough goodwill that I'm willing to just go along for the ride and see how it all plays out. But that's it from me on Transformers number 9, so you can let me know yourself. What are your thoughts on what happened with Optimus and Ratchet and Cliffjumper and Jazz here? Are you excited to see what's up with Beachcomber? And what about Shockwave's personality? What did you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. There's more Energon Universe coverage on the way. Thank you for watching. It's always appreciated. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.